Hey guys, how's it going? Ghosty Rich here today, and today we're gonna go over the Hemi swap and everything that had to happen to make it happen. I know a lot of you have been asking. I've been wanting to break everything in, work out all the kinks, and make sure that I give you accurate and everything information that I could possibly grasp and blow things up on. Super important because there are a lot of things you need to consider. So give me a second. I'm gonna pull the whiteboard up. Welcome to my really horrible list, my engine, and a couple parts that failed the test. No, the whole transmission didn't fail the test, but we'll go into that. First things first, let's go over some things that you're going to want to consider, especially if you're thinking about doing the swap. One, engine. Are you going to do a car or a truck Hemi? I'm going to go over why this is so important in a little bit, but this does make a factor. So let's say you're doing the 5.7 and you get it for the car. Well, what's awesome, the car doesn't have this pulley that's down here. Let's see if I can actually come down over here and zoom in so you can see. Look at how close that is to my Camaro fan, all right? You see that? You see how close that pulley is? You can, it's like an eighth, not an eighth. It's probably about a quarter inch. Anyways. On the car Hemi, it doesn't have that pulley there. So you technically don't even need to use this fan. You can use, if you had 3.6 in here, you can use a 3.6 Pentastar fan, meaning that, again, you're just gonna use your ECU to do everything. You're not gonna actually need to go and make a big expenditure. That being this Camaro fan. This Camaro fan is probably $300 to $400, but wait, there's more. It's, yes, it still speaks through our one talking wire here, and it still has the same connector. You'll plug it in, it just won't work. The reason why is it speaks at a different hertz, meaning that you need a converter. Now you can go ahead with the Jeep Speed Shop way, which is of course the Luchenblocke module, which is a German one. It's about yay big. You get to drill a hole inside your water pump and tap in a coolant sensor. Now, I didn't do that way. I ended up going with the RPM module. This is just a programmable relay. Ta-da! And it's probably about 500 Canadian, I want to say. And what it does is it's going to convert your signal over. So from GM, the Camaro, over to Jeep, Chrysler. Ta-da! CAN bus high, CAN bus low. There you go. So yes, this is going to convert it so that way it'll kick your fan in, and it also does the AC and everything. So it actually takes the CAN bus and converts everything. So this knows when you kick the AC in, kick it out, all other fun stuff. You can actually also get them to wire in a wire. So that way you can do a flip switch. So when you turn off your vehicle, you can kick in your fan to cool your system still. I would highly suggest that if you end up doing a Hellcat engine in here. Not that I would be doing a Hellcat engine in a two-door, because you will roll it quicker than you will start driving it. Anyways, so there we go. Car and truck. If you get the truck Hemi, that's one. You're gonna need to get a different fan. The other thing is the water pump has a different spout place, so it's a little bit harder for you to get hoses for it. That's why I built custom hoses, as you can see, made with stainless, because unfortunately they changed the bottom where the water pump comes out, and so it doesn't match up perfectly with a lot of the aftermarket radiators which are available on the market for the Hemi swap. By the way, I'm really happy with this Mitsumoto one. One thing is too is cooling. See how I had a light bar here? That's gone because we needed better cooling. Okay, just wait, there's more. Other things for the truck. So our fan and our relay, our hoses, and what else for the, oh yes, you'll need the intake adapter. For me, I put a car intake on here, but even though I bolted the car intake onto the truck Hemi, I had to modify and grind down the throttle body to be able to fit the throttle body with the timing cover of the truck. Another thing to be very weary of and to know that you'll have to do if you search out that intake. Again, if you get where I'm getting at, if I were to do this again, I would do a car 5.7 to save you all the headaches of especially if you have a 3.6, then you don't need to get the fan. You don't need to get the relay. You can just put your old fan on. On top of that, then you don't need the intake adapter. You can just build your intake off like so, because that's literally all I did. You can also just buy the kit. And on top of that, then you don't have to deal, like I said, with the relay issues and stuff like that. Not that I've had any issues with the relay. I'm just saying if there's stuff in the future, just keeps everything on one system, which we'll go into again, which is why I went with a Hemi swap. If you would have gone with an LS swap, then there's multiple computers involved, and that's why the Hemi's awesome. All right, let's jump back into this. That's the difference between the car and the truck. You can choose appropriately. When I built the motor for this, even though I'm jumping down here, we're talking about engines, let's do this. The building of the motor, if I had the chance that I had later on, I would have taken it. There's a guy selling 6.4 crate motors, remans, for about 5,000, 6,000 bucks Canadian, which was insane. I should have, if I would have seen that, I would have taken it. I got a wicked deal, don't get me wrong. I got a quarter of that Dodge Ram for about 2,500 bucks. And I ended up being able to sell some of those parts to pay for the motor, including scrap paid for the motor as well. So I can't really complain, but still, it cost me about 2,500 bucks to rebuild that motor myself for all the gaskets, because I went with all legit gaskets from Mopar. And then I also shoved in the 6.4 cam and the 6.4 valve springs. Which, to tell you the truth, the 5.7, if you get it for a decent enough price and you don't actually care about rebuilding it, go ahead, just slap it in there. I mean, I don't think the Jeep Speed Shop stuff even utilizes the MDS system, which would be awesome. If not, you could disable it. That's part of the reason why I rebuilt the motor. I put the Hellcat lifters in and the solenoid block-offs in the motor, and I deleted the MDS system to get rid of that MDS failure that was happening on these. And why not? You're gonna put something in there and I'm gonna go in that deep. Of course I'm gonna give it a little bit more. So I shoved the 6.4 cam in and replaced the valve springs with 6.4 valve springs. And man, it goes. All right, on with Ford. You need to choose. If you have the 3.6, you can use that neg one. Hard part. You need to find a person that's willing to part with their old bell housing. A lot of the wreckers, unless you beg them, are not going to give you a neg one transmission unless it's got a crack in the lower housing. If there's a crack in the lower housing or something, that's kind of what I lucked out with. Thanks Chris for helping me out with this, and he gave me a really wicked deal on this parts transmission, and I literally just needed the bell housing from it. So they usually don't want to part it. And if you're gonna have to buy a whole transmission, well, you might want to jump over to the 8-speed. Why? It's a smoother transmission, shifts really nice. You do have to include the fact that after you buy that transmission, you need the Jeep Speed Shop transmission kit, which I think is about $1,500 American. And then on top of that, you still need to go to a wrecker and you still have to get the Dodge Charger transmission shifting, the automatic transmission shifting piece, so that way you can shift the transmission, because it needs to have that for the kit. And then you get to cut out a piece. And again, if you're going to do that, I would highly suggest you take a look at Jeep Speed Shop's thing. And also, I think it's Jeeps and Gear or something like that. He also does a video because he did a 6.4 swap, but he also did the 8-speed. You do have to tap into the transmission, couple things. I stuck with the neg one because the Mopar guys are like, dude, this transmission will hold up, just do it. The only thing you might have to do later on are the solenoids, but for now, blow it up. And I said, okay, perfect. So left the neg one in. Let's jump over now. Okay, so you've picked your motor, hopefully the car, whether it's 6.4 or 5.7. You've picked your transmission. Let's jump over here. Now you need motor mounts. Motor mounts, really easy to use. Literally, Jeep Speed Shop ones, go with them. They are amazing. Todd, you got a great product. Steering relocation, really easy. Again, have a video on that. Make sure you get the steering relocation so you can bump that over so you can fit your motor in. Battery box. I didn't buy a battery or the new battery box. I simply trimmed mine down. Video on it, super easy to do. And I bolted in that TMR racing one that I got for 40 bucks. And man, she looks good. I love it. Might paint it later. Moving forward, Rad. Loved this Rad Mishimoto product. I think it was like 700 bucks Canadian. It was on sale. And then, of course, the radiator hoses were the expensive part. They were like 230 bucks to build because it's PW. Can't remember what it stands for. Maybe it's Performance Warehouse. But I went, or Performance World, don't know. But bought their stainless pieces, built my own hoses because couldn't find ones on the market that would work. If you get the car rather than the truck, there are Napa hoses available that do slip right on, and they're on every single form. And if you ask Todd when you're ordering your kit, I'm sure he'll send you the part numbers. And then of course you need just a plastic bottle. Make sure you do that. I went with a stainless one that would drain out the bottom if it overfilled. That was totally not big enough. It would pee out its coolant every single time. And so don't do it. It seems like a good idea, but anyways, you live, you learn. Power steering. As you can see, you have to convert it for power steering if you do a truck and or the car because they use electronic racks. So all you simply have to do is go and get yourself a power steering pump from if you get the 3.8 one, then you need Todd's bushing to put the Dodge Ram pulley on it. From 2012, I think, is the one that had power steering. Or you buy yourself a 2012 power steering pump for a Dodge Ram and bolt it on. At the same time, buy a 2012 Dodge Ram AC compressor, and you can grab those from Rock Auto, including the pulleys. And while you're doing all that, I would get a whole, even though I don't have it on here or on my list, just do the serpentine belt and the tensioner and the idler pulley. So that way, that's all new. If you want, you can do a new alternator. I went and had my buddy Mike Singer wind one up for me. It's like 375 idle amps, so that's why I went with that. Let's go through the next. As you can see, I did the fan and the fan relay. Again, Rock Auto the fan, because like from local it was 700 bucks, Rock Auto was 350. And then RPM Extreme made this relay that's made just for the Hemi swap. Moving forward. AC lines, they're expensive. You can get them from Todd. Their RPM Extreme also sells the AC lines. I think they're a bit cheaper through RPM Extreme. So if you're already ordering stuff from RPM Extreme, go ahead. Let's see here. Yeah, already went over the power steering and the pulley and the bushing. And, oh yeah, and this is that bottle mount. I didn't actually need the mount, but I was messing around and I had already gotten it, or it was already sent to me by Todd. So I said, let's utilize it, and that's why mine will look different if you buy the Ram one. Wiring harness. You need a wiring harness for the Hemi. I would just seriously, even though it's the biggest cost and it's hard to bite that bullet, buy the ECU from Todd with the wiring harness. I went through a couple companies to get my ECU. I was wound up for months because they kept sending me the wrong ECUs. There was some mix-ups between me and Todd on which one we needed. And then when we finally found one, then the company that was getting me the ECU messed up. Trust me, just get it through Todd. That way if there's any problems, you can shoot it back to Todd and Todd will get you the right one. And then he can also do the tuning aspect. If you don't want to do tuning, he will send you that done. But if you build your motor and you do what I did with the 6.4 cam, you are still going to need to take your engine in once it's in and take it to a performance shop so they can tune your engine. You can still do that in the end if you'd like. Moving forward, that was the wiring harness. Definitely, like I said, good with that. Oh, you have to make your own alternator starter wire. Your alternator wire you need to run and your starter wire you need to run, and you just make your own tip-em wire. Super easy. Again, I show it in the video series, but you're gonna need at least a 4-gauge kit to make your own. I did 0 gauge because I'm nuts, and I did all my grounds too. I upgraded all my grounds. Moving forward, intake and adapter. I had this Mopar intake. I literally cut it down. And then after I cut it down, I just bought another performance roller or whatever their name is, bought one of their elbows, shoved it on, and ran the Mopar cold air intake with their shield, which I modified a little bit. Probably gonna do something a little different later, but yeah. Oh, and I'm running a K&N sock on it. Those socks are ridiculously expensive, by the way. They're as much as a new filter. Kind of crazy. Exhaust. Thanks, Dan. Holy smokes. If you haven't seen my exhaust, we built a custom stainless steel exhaust all the way back. It's got no cats in it, goes down to a 24-inch muffler, and it sounds amazing. I wouldn't change a darn thing about the exhaust system. Oh, and we're running the Jba Motorsports Headers, from which we had to alter this side a little bit. Headers are really hard. You can't just go buy some and slap them in. The only ones you're gonna probably be able to do that with are the Jeep Speed Shop ones, and you might have to do a little bit of grinding. Todd shows you how to do it in one of his videos on one of the link pieces, so that way his headers will slip in. But other than that, again, you could just buy Todd's whole exhaust system, and to tell you the truth, it's probably gonna cost you just as much to go get an exhaust system made. So either way, again, that's the exhaust. Go ahead, buy Todd's if you aren't good at making exhaust or you don't have a friend who does it, because yeah, and make sure your friend's actually a good exhaust guy. Otherwise, there's nothing fun about driving down a trail and having your exhaust system fall to the bottom of your rig as you're driving. Headers, once again, you pretty much have to use, I think Todd's starting to use the truck headers, but I think he was using the Jeep model, Jeep Hemi ones. Again, we might see some more options. I would simply just buy Todd's if you want to buy some headers that are for sure going to work and give you a little bit of performance boost. Transmission plate. This is all for transmission. If you get the 8-speed, you need a transmission plate and a charger shifter. Yeah. Either way, you'll need all that. One other thing for you. If you're running an Atlas case or a Rubicon case, you need to get, of course, I believe a non-Rubicon case, and you can't use your Atlas. You need one for a automatic transmissions, and again, that's just so that way it'll mate up nicely. Because there's a male and a female spline, and if you don't have the, what do you call it there? The right intake shaft, of course, then you're gonna have problems, and yeah, you can't mate it up. Okay, fuel line. I think Todd might include it in his kit. I can't remember. So if you get one of Todd's kits, you could, or build your own. It's really not that hard. If you follow one of our videos, there's tons of videos on making your own fuel line. I literally bought a 6-an kit and built my own fuel line and deleted all the evap system. So yeah, that's always fun. Again, that's another reason to go get your vehicle tuned afterwards if you're going to delete the evap stuff. Again, that's illegal in some states, so be very careful where you do it, because yeah, I don't need to get anyone in trouble for doing that if it's not allowed in your state. Okay, fuel line, that was it. And then tune. Okay, I went to Post Haste Performance when I was done and said, have at her. I gotta say, they did an amazing job. I'll show you the dyno sheets here in a sec. I just want to go over the last little things. I just want to look over it, and just in case I failed to mention something. Oh yes, I put in a power steering cooler. Ta-da! The reason why is just because, yeah, why not? I didn't have one, needed it. If you didn't have a transmission cooler before, you need a transmission cooler. Go ahead, make sure you buy a nice size transmission cooler to keep that puppy nice and cool. And what's awesome is the Mishimoto has all the screw points for the factory transmission cooler and AC condenser. So that's why I went with that. Again, you don't have to do Mishimoto. You could just do Todd's. Todd's got a good supplier, I think through CNR, I want to say. Yeah. Okay, we're going to start it in a second. But first, let's go ahead and show you some dyno sheets. These are the numbers that everyone usually wants to see. They're the dyno jet numbers. As you can see, 334 horsepower and 352 foot-pounds of torque. Pretty insane. And again, 5.7 liter with a 6.4 cam in it with valve springs. Pricing, what should you budget for? Well, let's quickly go over this. Your engine. I would probably say if you're gonna buy a used engine, you're gonna wanna rebuild a little bit of it before you put it in. That way you can save yourself a whole lot of headaches later. So you're gonna probably dump about 2 to 3 grand in on seals, and if you decide to delete the MDS system and all that. So, I mean, gaskets are actually pretty cheap. It's just all the other stuff. So, yeah, that's about it. You can also look at, there's tons of places online, and it just flew over my head, but there's a place that makes an Mds Delete Kit in the States, and it's not that badly priced. I think it's like 12 or 1300 bucks. I cannot remember their name off the top of my head, but take a look. Don't buy an Amazon cheap kit, because if you blow the lifters, you're gonna hate it. Make sure you stick with Mopar lifters and get the upgraded ones, the newer ones, so that way you're not gonna have the needle bearing fail. What else? Oh yeah, transmission. I'd probably budget about 3,000 bucks for doing that. And let's go over here. One of these kits, even if you get the kit, you're gonna spend like 7. You know what? Healthy budget for just to make sure, I'd say about 15,000 Canadian. And I'm serious there. You really wanna make sure you have some money to blow in case something's not working out or you need to rush order something. But I mean, that's your healthy budget is about. Once you have the engine on your lap and then the transmission, you're probably a healthy budget is around 15. And if you have money left over, go and buy yourself a nice cold one. What about the sound? What does this money buy you? Well, let's show you. Yeah, you can't put a dollar amount on that. If you're wondering, Rich, would you do it again? Just for that little badge right there. Yeah, I would. You can't beat the V8. And I will tell you this. The gas mileage is actually better than I thought it was going to be. The gas mileage is about 16.5 to 16.2 on the highway, and then you're probably 17 to 17.5 liters per 100 kilometers, by the way. That's what I'm going by. Yeah, 17 to 17.5 in the city. Just depends on how many times you're revving to hear the Hemi, which is quite a lot. You'll see. Anyways, I hope this video helped you out. Again, we're gonna have more content. I'm gonna go take this thing out. We're gonna have to take it off-roading, even if we go down some trails, and we're gonna play. Now, some last minute disclosures. When you do this, if you do a 6.4, again, if you have a 4-door, makes sense. 2-door, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you can. I mean, the 5.7 already doesn't make sense in a 2-door, but I did it because I wanted to. So yeah, you choose what you wanna play with. Also, 5.7, 6.4, you might think it's just a number. Be careful, especially with your axles. Axles are a big thing, and you're really playing with fire as you go from the 5.7 to the 6.4. And if you go to the Hellcat, well, you don't have axles, you have wet noodles. So you need to consider, on top of all of this, that you're probably gonna have to build your axles at some point, especially your front one. Your rear Dana 44, it'll probably hold up, but the 35 in the front of a Sport, I'm playing with fire on a 5.7, let alone if I went something else. So we'll have to see. Once it does something, I'll probably do something crazy and build some axles. But anyways, that's it. Thanks again for watching. Press a like if it helps you out, and subscribe for more.